I work out every day. But I had to. I had no choice because the doctors were telling me I was slowly, but not.
And now, to pay tribute to Ozzy, Chad Smith, Robert Trujillo, Adam Wake,
Dada. Say good morning.
Good morning. Andrew Watt, Billy Idol, Steve Stevens, Zach Wilde, Shelley Rowe, and to start it off...
What if I told you that one of rock music's greatest legends performed his last song while sitting on a throne, fighting through pain and illness, just to give his fans one final goodbye? This is the incredible true story of Ozzy Osbourne's last performance. And trust me, you won't believe how emotional this gets. Picture this. It's July 5th, 2025. 45,000 fans are packed into Villa Park Stadium in Birmingham, England. Millions more are watching from their homes around the world. Everyone knows this is special. Everyone knows this might be the last time they'll ever see the Prince of Darkness perform live. And as Ozzy sits on that throne, struggling with his health but determined to give everything he has left, something magical and heartbreaking happens all at once. But to understand why this moment was so powerful, we need to go back to where it all started. This story begins in 2019, when Ozzy announced something that shocked the music world. He was going on his final tour, called No More Tours 2. His wife Sharon, who had been his manager for decades, made it crystal clear that this was really the end. No comebacks, no surprise returns. Ozzy was done. Why would a man who had been rocking stages for over 50 years suddenly decide to stop? Well, life had thrown him some serious curveballs. Ozzy had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a condition that affects movement and gets worse over time. Both he and Sharon were exhausted from years of touring, traveling, and the constant pressure of the music business. They had earned their rest, and frankly, they needed it. For most artists, that would have been the end of a story. A legendary career wrapped up with a proper farewell tour and then a quiet retirement. But Ozzy Osbourne has never been like most artists, has he? 7 years passed. 7 long years where fans wondered if they would ever see their hero again. Then, out of nowhere, everything changed. In February 2025, Sharon made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the metal community. Ozzy would perform one more time, but this wasn't going to be just any concert. This was going to be something truly special. They called it Back to the Beginning, and it was planned as the most incredible metal concert ever organized. The location was perfect, too. Villa Park in Birmingham, the very city where Ozzy was born and where Black Sabbath first came together all those decades ago. It was like coming full circle, returning to the place where heavy metal was practically invented. But here's what made this concert even more amazing. Every single penny earned from ticket sales would go to charity. Ozzy didn't want to make money from this. He wanted to give back. The charities they chose were close to his heart: Parkinson's disease research and hospice care. He was using his final performance to help other people who were fighting the same battles he was facing. Sharon took charge of organizing the whole event, and boy, did she go big. The lineup she put together was absolutely insane. We're talking about Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Slayer, Pantera, Alice in Chains, Anthrax, Megadeth, and even the Red Hot Chili Peppers. One music director called it possibly the greatest day in heavy metal history, and honestly, it's hard to argue with that. But putting together this dream concert wasn't easy. The biggest challenge was getting the original Black Sabbath members back together. These 4 guys, Ozzy, Tony Iommi on guitar, Geezer Butler on bass, and Bill Ward on drums, had created some of the most important music in rock history. But they hadn't all been in the same room together for years. The problem was that some of them weren't talking to each other. Geezer Butler hadn't spoken to Ozzy since 2017 because their wives had gotten into a fight. You know how it is sometimes. When couples have problems, it can mess up friendships too. It was a sad situation that had kept these old friends apart for way too long. Bill Ward, the drummer, had actually reconnected with Ozzy when Ozzy got sick. Sometimes it takes a health scare to remind people what's really important, and Bill was there for his old bandmate when he needed support. The toughest one to convince was Tony Iommi, the guitarist who had written so many of those classic Black Sabbath riffs. Tony was worried about the band's reputation. They had already done a farewell tour, and he didn't want Black Sabbath to look like one of those bands that keeps saying goodbye, but never actually leaves. You know the type. They announce their final tour, then announce another final tour, and another one after that. But when Tony found out this was all for charity, his heart softened. This wasn't about money or fame. This was about doing something good while giving fans one last incredible memory. So he agreed to be part of it. Even with everyone finally on board, there were still huge concerns. The biggest worry was whether Ozzy could actually pull this off. His Parkinson's disease had gotten worse over the years, and everyone could see that performing was becoming much harder for him. Walking was difficult. His energy levels weren't what they used to be. Some people wondered if it was even safe for him to get up on stage. Other musicians on the lineup were worried too. Maynard James Keenan, the singer from Tool, admitted he didn't know if Ozzy would be able to handle the pressure. He said he was preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best. That's a pretty scary thing to hear about someone you've looked up to your whole career. But Ozzy wasn't going to let his illness stop him. Even though he was in pain and struggling with his symptoms, he started training like an athlete preparing for the Olympics. He worked out with weights, rode his exercise bike, and even had a personal trainer living at his house to help him stay as strong as possible. He also worked with a vocal coach 4 days a week to keep his voice in shape. Still, Ozzy was realistic about his limitations. He knew he couldn't be the high-energy performer fans remembered from the old days. He couldn't run around the stage, jump off the drum kit, or do all those crazy things that made him famous. He was honest with everyone about this, saying he might have to sit down during his performance, but he promised he would be there and give everything he had left. And you know what? That honesty made people love him even more. Here was a man who could have easily stayed home, comfortable and safe, but instead chose to push through his pain to give his fans one final gift. That takes incredible courage and love for your audience. So the big day arrived. July 5th, 2025. Villa Park Stadium was packed with 45,000 people who had traveled from all over the world to be there. But it wasn't just the people in the stadium. Over 5 million fans watched the live stream online. The streaming cost about $30, while tickets for people who went in person ranged from $150 to $275. When all was said and done, the concert raised $190 million for charity, making it the highest-grossing charity concert in history. The show lasted 10 incredible hours. 10 hours! That's longer than most people's workdays. They had 14 different acts performing, plus 2 special supergroups, made up of various musicians who came together just for this event. There was even a drum battle in the middle of the show, where some of the world's best drummers competed against each other on stage. Between the musical acts, they showed video messages from famous artists who couldn't make it to the concert but wanted to pay tribute to Ozzy. Billy Idol, Elton John, Cyndi Lauper, and Marilyn Manson all sent their love and respect through these video messages. Jason Momoa, the actor who played Aquaman, hosted the whole event. Can you imagine having Aquaman introduce your favorite bands? The whole thing felt like a celebration of not just Ozzy's career, but of heavy metal music itself. But everyone was waiting for the main event. Everyone was waiting for Ozzy. When he finally took the stage, the sight was both inspiring and heartbreaking. There he was, the Prince of Darkness himself, sitting on a throne because standing for a whole set would have been too difficult. But you know what? He looked like royalty up there. He looked like exactly what he was, the king of heavy metal, holding court one final time. Ozzy performed with his solo band first, playing some of his biggest hits. He did I Don't Know and Mr. Crowley, songs that had made him famous as a solo artist after leaving Black Sabbath. He also performed Suicide Solution, one of his most controversial but important songs. But then came the moment that broke everyone's hearts. Ozzy started singing, "Mama, I'm Coming Home," and something special happened in that stadium. This song, which he had written years earlier about missing his family while on tour, suddenly took on a completely different meaning. Here was a man who knew his time was limited, singing about coming home to the people he loved most. The emotion in his voice was overwhelming. You could hear the years, the struggles, the love, and the goodbye all wrapped up in every word. Fans in the audience were crying. People watching at home were crying. Even the other musicians on stage were getting emotional. It was one of those rare moments where music becomes something bigger than entertainment, It becomes a shared human experience of love, loss, and saying goodbye. After Mama, I'm Coming Home, Ozzy performed Crazy Train, one of his most famous songs. Even sitting down, even fighting through his illness, he still had that magic that had made him a legend. The crowd sang along to every word, creating this incredible wall of sound that seemed to lift Ozzy up and give him strength. But the night wasn't over yet. The moment everyone had been waiting for was still to come. After decades apart, after years of not speaking, after all the fights and misunderstandings, the original Black Sabbath took the stage together one final time. They opened with War Pigs, one of their heaviest and most political songs. Then they played N.I.B., which showcased Geezer Butler's incredible bass playing. And finally, they ended with Paranoid, probably their most famous song ever. 45,000 people sang along to every single word, creating this massive choir that you could probably hear for miles around Birmingham. It was magical. It was heartbreaking. It was perfect. But the night had one more surprise in store. After the concert, while Ozzy was backstage recovering from his performance, something beautiful happened. His daughter Kelly's longtime boyfriend decided this was the perfect moment to propose to her. Right there backstage, in front of Ozzy and Sharon, he got down on one knee and asked Kelly to marry him. She said yes, of course. After a night full of goodbyes and final performances, here was a moment of pure joy and new beginnings. It was like life was reminding everyone that even when some chapters end, new ones are always beginning. Ozzy, despite being exhausted from his performance, was overjoyed. His little girl was getting married, and he had just given the performance of a lifetime. For a moment, all the pain and illness seemed worth it. But life, as we all know, can be cruel sometimes. Just 17 days after that incredible night at Villa Park, just 17 days after proving he was still the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne passed away peacefully. 17 days. That's how long the world got to hold on to the magic of that final performance before saying goodbye forever. When the news broke, fans around the world were devastated but also grateful. Grateful that Ozzy had found the strength to give them one last gift. Grateful that he had ended his incredible career on such a high note. Grateful that his final public moments had been filled with music, love, and the adoration of millions of fans. The concert had raised $190 million for charity, money that would help fund Parkinson's research and hospice care for years to come. Even in death, Ozzy was still helping others, still making a difference in the world. Looking back at that performance of Mama, I'm Coming Home, it's impossible not to get emotional. Here was a man who knew he was dying, who was in constant pain, who could barely walk, but who still found the strength to get up on stage and pour his heart out for his fans one last time. The song, which had originally been about missing home while on tour, became his final goodbye to the world. The way he sang those lyrics that night, you could hear everything he was feeling. The love for his family, the gratitude for his fans, the sadness about leaving, and the peace of knowing he had given everything he had to give. It was raw, it was honest, and it was absolutely beautiful. That's what made Ozzy Osbourne so special. He was never just a performer putting on a show. He was always a real person sharing his real emotions with his audience. Whether he was singing about his struggles with addiction, his love for his family, or his battles with mental health, Ozzy always told the truth. And that final performance was the most truthful thing he ever did. The concert proved that even when our bodies fail us, even when we're facing our biggest challenges, we can still find ways to touch other people's lives. Ozzy could have stayed home, comfortable and safe. But instead, he chose to use his remaining strength to create something beautiful for others. He chose to turn his goodbye into a gift. That throne he sat on during his performance wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a throne for a true king. A king who had ruled heavy metal for over 50 years, who had influenced countless musicians, and who had brought joy to millions of fans around the world. Even sitting down, even struggling with his health, Ozzy Osbourne was still royalty. The fact that he chose to donate all the money to charity makes the whole story even more incredible. This wasn't about ego or money or one last moment in the spotlight. This was about giving back, about using his platform to help others who were fighting similar battles with illness and disease. And the reunion with Black Sabbath? That was the cherry on top of an already perfect farewell. These four men, who had created heavy metal together in Birmingham all those years ago, got to come full circle and end their story in the same city where it all began. Despite their personal problems and years of not speaking, they put all that aside for one final moment of musical magic. The whole event showed what music can do at its best. It can bring people together, heal old wounds, raise money for important causes, and create memories that last forever. It can turn a goodbye into a celebration, and it can prove that even in our darkest moments, there's still beauty to be found. Ozzy Osbourne's final performance will be remembered forever. Not just because it was his last, but because it was so full of love, courage, and humanity. He showed the world how to face the end with dignity, grace, and rock and roll spirit. That night at Villa Park wasn't just a concert, it was a masterclass in how to say goodbye. And even though Ozzy is gone now, the music lives on, the memories live on, and the $190 million raised for charity will help countless people for years to come. That's the kind of legacy every artist dreams of leaving behind. That's the mark of a true legend. If this story touched your heart like it touched mine, please hit that like button and share this video with fellow music lovers. These stories of courage and humanity need to be told and retold. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible music stories that will make you laugh, cry, and remember why we love rock and roll so much. Until next time, keep the music alive, and remember, legends never really die, they just become part of the songs we sing forever.